Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Real True Believer YouTube video. I am your host, L.A. Hale, and I'm coming with another article from the Christian Post talking about it was in the news several weeks ago where a FBI office here in, well, in Richmond, Virginia, was basically saying that Catholics were extremists or people who have Catholic beliefs or any sort of biblical beliefs were potential extremists, deadly enough to be watched by the FBI. And this article goes on to give you some details. Congressional Republicans are demanding answers after the FBI's Richmond office circulated a document classifying radical traditionalist Catholic ideology as a potential national security threat. Representatives Jim Jordan from Ohio and Mike Johnson from Louisiana wrote a letter to the FBI Director Christopher Wray describing the FBI's targeting of a set of Catholic Americans for their religious beliefs as the latest example of a serious misuse of federal law enforcement resources for apparent political purposes. Um, with this, I want to caveat and kind of, add on to a video that I had put up earlier this week around Valentine's Day, talking about pre-trib and how majority of people in the church believe in this false pre-tribulation ideology, really made famous with the Left Behind book series by Tim LaHaye and the movies that have come out since and the new movies that are coming out now as well, talking about this pre-tribulation rapture where the whole world, everything is kind of going normal, the status quo is it's across the world, and everyone's just kind of living their lives, and then all of a sudden, boom, out of nowhere, people disappear. And if you remember the commercials from the first Left Behind movies that came out with Kirk Cameron, years ago, I believe over 10 years ago, it's very sensational, sensationalized of like, one day people will disappear, millions across the world. What will happen, to the world after this? It's the end times thing, the rapture has happened. Everyone's clothes are falling down, you get it, you get it. And I'm wanting to make this video really to show that, for one, the pre-tribulation rapture is a false lie promoted by many pastors and evangelicals and evangelists in the church to the world, saying that this is how the end times are going to be. And through my years of studying the Bible, reading through the Bible, studying Revelation, studying the end time prophecies that are found throughout the Bible, I have always found it kind of odd that Christians today, especially Christians in America, believe that somehow we're going to not go through anything bad, that we're just going to be taken out of here and whisked away to safety before anything bad happens to the world. And I want you to come with me again to Matthew 24. And this is Jesus talking to his disciples again about the end times. And I don't know why many churches kind of skip over this or make it to seem like, oh, he's talking about the persecution of the people that are still on the earth after the rapture. But I just want you to follow me and look at these passages and look at these verses that are explaining the persecution happening before the major event of Jesus showing up in the sky. So look here with me to verse 9 in Matthew 24, where he says, and this is Jesus quoting, "Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will be offended, will betray one another, and will hate one another. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many." So that is just one example. I would like to go to another example here in Mark chapter 13, where Jesus again is talking about the end times. Again, this is before the sun and moon are darkened. This is before all the craziness of the trumpet judgments and the bowl judgments are happening. And even before the rapture, Jesus is again telling you, for nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there will be earthquakes in various places, and there will be famines and troubles. These are the beginning of sorrows. Now, when we think of the beginning of sorrows, a lot of us think like, oh, the beginning of sorrows. You mean, so this is like the beginning of the seals being broken in Revelation, the seven seals. given to Jesus, in heaven, that John the Revelator saw when he was getting these visions. A lot of people think that, the beginning of sorrows are those seals, but I have a personal opinion and a personal theory that the beginning of sorrows happens before the seals are broken. Because if you look at the seals, the first seal is the Antichrist coming to power. And again, in my last video, I hope I made it clear that the Antichrist coming to power, in order for that to happen, you need to have the ram and goat prophecy in Daniel chapter 8 take place first. That sets off the beginning and the wheels of the end time coming to fruition. You have the ram, being basically equated to Iran, and then you have the goat, which is either Western powers like the UN with Europe and America and a coalition of countries, or it could be Turkey, because right now in the world, I do want to make a video on this, but right now in the world, the Islamic world is saying that they have found their basically Messiah, that their Messiah is here on the earth. And this is, I don't know, I don't remember what sect of Islam is saying this, but if you can think for yourselves, if let's say the Shia Muslims say that they have found their savior, the Sunni Muslims, which is majority of the Muslim world, the Arab world is Sunni Muslims, they would be enraged that the Shia apostates are saying that they have found their Messiah, when the Sunnis believe that their Messiah will be Sunni Muslim. So again, you can see the setup of like how the Antichrist is going to come to power in this regional war with these Muslim countries. But again, I want you to come back with me to Mark chapter 13, verse 9, where Jesus says, "But watch out for yourselves, for they will deliver you up to councils, and you will be beaten in the synagogues. You will be brought before rulers and kings for my sake, for a testimony to them." And I've always found it weird that Jesus says you'll be brought and beaten in the synagogues. Synagogues is the Jewish equivalent to a church. So what Jesus is saying here right now is that you'll be beaten in church, that there will be church people who think that they are doing God justice by beating you and torturing you and handing you over to the government to be killed. Now, I want you to ask yourself, how does the world get set up to allow that to happen? And I know there's many elderly or more seasoned Christians out there who are in their 50s, 60s, or older, who are looking at the technology today in 2023 and thinking to themselves, oh my goodness, the end times are right here. It's about to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. The seals are going to be broken at any time. I am a millennial and I have seen the progression of technology, not as much as those older than me and people older than me, but I have seen the progression of technology through the years. And I'm very aware of the progression of technology from today, such as AI, chatbot, GBT, the robots that are being built, the drones and things like that. And even to myself, I'm saying, wow, this is crazy. Oh my goodness, this is like setting us up for the end times, but we're not there yet. Because right now there's too many people in the world who have Christian relatives, Christian friends, co-workers who may not be Christian themselves. They may not even go to church at all, but they still wouldn't be okay with turning their family members over or their friends over or their coworkers over to be killed for their faith because they're Christian. I don't think we're there yet in the world to say the end times are going to be here in the next 5 to 10 years. I just want to warn many believers, real true believers in America, that yes, the world is setting itself up for the end times. Things and events happening in the world is setting up for the end times. But just like how when the automobile was made back in the early 1900s, the Model T, it took several decades for cars to be able to reach 400 horsepower to go over 100 miles per hour. It took time. And it's the same thing when it comes to the end time prophecies and the state of the world that will be in place during the end times. It's going to take time for us to get there. Right now, there's so many people who are willing to fight back for the cause of the Bible. But in Revelation And what the end time prophecies have always said, the world government is persecuting Christians worldwide, meaning in the United States, in the Western Hemisphere, and in the Eastern Hemisphere. It is going to be a worldwide persecution of people who believe in Jesus Christ. And again, how does the world in that time, in the end times, even know that someone is Christian, unless the world at that time has flipped the status quo to where evil is good and good is evil. So I feel like in the end times that Jesus has been describing to us for so, and that we in all the gospels that Jesus is describing to us, and even in Revelation, is this the fact of, in the end time world, you will be demonized for doing things that we see as normal today. And what do I mean by that? I'm personally believing that in the end times, if you are a heterosexual male or female, you will be looked at as you will be looked at in disgust. You will be looked at as some sort of prude, some sort of backwatered hippie, almost, some backwater, country bumpkin, that you would even think that male and female cohabitating together to create life is good. I think in the end times it will be more so that if you're gay, if you're homosexual, if you're trans, if you're any sort of, person that is a part of the LGBTQIA hashtag ampersand whatever community, that will be seen as normal. Homosexuality will be seen as normal, or heterosexuality will be seen as disgusting. And I think again it will even be going on to, stealing and hating people. I mean, Jesus even said, down in verse 12, now brother will betray brother to death, and father his child, and children will rise up against parents and cause them to be put to death, and you will be hated by all for my name's sake. So again, that is, we're nowhere close to that right now. And I know I say nowhere close, and many people might be thinking, oh my goodness, Aaron, what are you talking about? There's persecution going on, in this country and on this side of the world. I get that. But in America, in the Western world, the Western, countries, America, Europe, England, Scotland, European Union, and most of those, we're not there yet. We're not even really, I don't want to say close to being there, because we have seen certain Christians and people who are Christians being charged with crimes such as silently praying outside of an abortion clinic. But I want you folks to understand that the Bible is telling us that in the end times, simply going to church will be a matter of life and death, because you will have to be going to a church that has aligned itself to this world government that is in place at that time, that is not serving the God of the Bible. So if you are having a Bible study in your home, that is where people will come in. It really is a replay of how the early church had probably had to deal with things, especially in areas that were controlled by the Roman Empire. You know, I think many people think that when Paul was in prison, that he just gave these letters, the epistles that he wrote, that he just gave it to the security guard, was like, here you go, security guard, who was a Roman soldier who hates Christians. Can you take this letter for me? Don't worry, it's nothing bad. It's just a book that I'm giving to the churches. Can you please give this to my man outside my jail cell so he can take it to the other churches around the city and be able to spread the gospel? That obviously we know that didn't happen, because Paul was in prison. Why would they treat him in any other special way, even if they were not so mean to him, and probably, gave him a little bit of leeway, and probably gave him a, extra cup of water, or extra, pieces of food? Still, they're not going to just hand a letter that is going to be sent to a group of people who are opposed to the government that he works for. I think that the book of Revelation and all the end time prophecies are telling us that the Christians that are going to be in the world in those days are going to be so drastically different from the Christians that we see in America right now. They're not going to be they're not going to be the pearl clutching. They're not going to be oh my goodness, you said a bad word. Oh my goodness, I just can't hear those things. No, they're going to be some of the most hardcore, blunt, in your face, this is how it is, and this is the way it should be, and this is what the Bible says type Christians. And they're not going to take any sort of weakness. They're not going to take any sort of passivity to dealing with the world in those times. And again, I'm not saying that they're going to go around and start killing people and doing bad things. No, but I think that for them, in order to continue to promote the gospel in the end times, Christians are going to have to do some dirty things in order to get that done. Again, we're going to be in the trenches. We are going to go through persecution. Don't let any pastor, any evangelist tell you that somehow God is just going to get us out of here in the pre-tribulation rapture before the tribulation happens. No, Jesus has been telling us in three gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, that Christians and people who believe in him will go through persecution before Jesus comes back. Again, no one in the Bible who professed to believe and promoted the cause of God, the cause of Jesus in the Bible, anyone who did that was always persecuted. And we as Christians in America today, we can't sit here and say that, oh, we're just better, so we're going to avoid that because God's going to get us out of here. No, he's going to put us through the fire first to make sure those who truly believe in him are going to be with him when he comes back to rescue us. So that is this video. And again, I want to make another video about this later on, but I just want to give people a bit of a wake-up call that yes, Christians will be persecuted even in America. And I just want to say thank you for clicking on this video, and I will see you again on the other one.